Just wanted to show you briefly. Oh, there's the bell. Just wanted to show you briefly how you can try out this sample test on HackerRank just to get a feel for the platform. I highly recommend doing this before you start your first programming problem for ACSL. I will, this link is available to you at the same place that you saw this video. And this is what you'd see when you come to the real programming problem as well. Instructions, I'm gonna click continue, and it tells me what's gonna happen here. And then I'll type my email address, make my declaration statement of honesty, and then agree and start. Now, there's actually 3 problems here. When you go to your programming problem, there'll only be 1. So I'm going to move myself here and click solve, go to this coding problem here and do solve question. Now, it will, let me open up the screen here a bit more so you can see something a little bit more like what you'd see. Here is, pop myself right there. There we go. Here's something like what you'll see. There's a timer up here on the left-hand side. Mine says 44 minutes. That's just for the sample problem. Yours will say 72 hours, which is 3 days. And then the instructions are here on the left-hand side, and then the coding window where your work is over here on the right-hand side. Now notice on the sample problem, and I believe also on the real problem when you open it up, it will have a language selector here. So here's where you should select the language that you want to program in. I believe on the ACSL actual problem, it'll show you Python and Java. And so if you're in Java, you'd select Java 8. If you're working in Python, then you'd select Python 3. If they don't give you numbers, just select the default Java and Python. Okay. So I'll read over the instructions on the left-hand side here. Why don't you pause the video here so that you can read these. Okay. So now I'll come over here. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit because there's usually some sample input and output on this. So make sure you look over the sample input and output on the actual problem. And then your job over here in the coding side is going to be to write the code for the function. There'll be a function header here already for you, and your job is to write the code for it. Here's the parameters of the function. So these are the values. These are the variable names that you're going to use as you write the code to do the thing you want to do. And make sure you look at the comment above it here, which will tell you what the function is supposed to be doing. So we'll see, we're going to complete the find number function. Function is expected to return a string. So make sure you return a string. I'll come down here and just return hello to remind me that I'm going to return a string. The function accepts the following parameters. So here's the 2 parameters, right? And they'll tell you here, first there's an integer array, which is a list. And the second one is an integer. So the integer array is going to be ARR, and then the integer is going to be K, which I can use here. So now here's my really basic starter code, right? So I would highly recommend that you always start with just like something that returns the right data type and then run it just so you can get a feel for it. And I got to shrink my screen here a little bit more so you can see down at the bottom here of the screen, there's a run code button, a run test button, and a submit button. Don't push that submit button yet, but run code would be a great thing to do. It'll pop up this box with some information. So I want to look at that information here briefly with you, the test results. So when you run code, it'll run a test for you. It'll run one test for you first. So you'll see the input that was given to the function here, and the input what am I looking at here? I'm going to pause for a second because this is a little unexpected. Okay, sorry about that. It's a little different than the other one I was working on. And so it is important to, read the instructions carefully and then compare it to what's actually being given to the function here and then the code down here. So in this case, we're given an array and then a number to search for in the array. And what I see from the ACSL stuff here, they're talking about like lines of input, the input format here and stuff. And so we're getting 7 lines of input. The first line is how many items are going to be in the array, 5. And then the items in the array are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the next 5 lines because this was a 5. And then the last item is the item we're searching for in this array. Now, that's how this is going to be structured here. Up in the code, you don't need to worry about each line item because what you're working with in the code here is the array itself and the item we're searching for. So this is not the actual coding programming problem for ACSL. However, you should expect to see some sort of similar like discordance in the ACSL problem where they'll say like the input's coming in on a bunch of lines, and then when you write your function, you're actually sort of capturing it in a slightly different way. What's happening in the code, just so you know, is in this this stuff is running. You don't have to write this. This is hidden here, right? It's sort of locked code. You shouldn't do anything with it. But this is the part that's formatting the given input into something more usable for you, like an array, and then the number you're looking for in the array. Okay, so that's what's happening there. So let's go back to look at our test results here. So we have an array that's going to have 5 elements. These are the 5 elements in the array. We're looking for whether a 1 is in the array or not, and then we're going to expect the output. The expected output is a yes. Now my output was hello because look, all I did was return hello. So obviously I did not pass this test. It compiled successfully, which is good. You always want to have code that compiles and runs successfully. So another thing that I want to show you here is the run all tests button. So when you click that, now you can see that there's a bunch of test cases here that will run on your code. Now, the first few test cases will normally be unlocked, and then there'll be some locked test cases. So this first one is the one that we already saw, and then the next test case, it's going to run it with a 3, 2, 3, 1, 5, which means that we're going to have an array with 3 elements. These are the 3 elements, and we want to see if a 5 is in it. So the expected output is going to be a no. Of course, my output was hello again. Expected output was no. So that's why I got a red X here that this test case did not pass. And then these locked test cases are hidden. They're not going to let me see what they are. This is to prevent me from hard coding the answer to all the test cases, right? And so these ones you'll see when you run your code whether it passes or not. I'm going to change this to a no so we can. I'm going to click the Run Tests button now, which will run all the tests, just so we can see how some of them will pass, right? Here's the ones that it'll show me first the ones that failed, and then the ones that passed. And again, like I have a 50-50 chance because all of them are either going to be yes or no. Okay, so once I write code, well, here, should we just solve this one quick? In Python, we can do something like, Python makes this easy, so sorry, Java people. I could say if k in r, the array. So notice I'm not actually using any of these numbers. I'm using the parameters that were given to me in the function, the function header here. So if k in r, that's the Python syntax to ask whether this item exists in the array or not. Then if it is, I'll say yes, and then else turn no. And now let's run code. If I want to just run one test, I can see that looked good. Run tests, I can check all of them here, and all available test cases passed. Great. There is this custom input thing, by the way, too. So if you want to test your own special case, like maybe you want to try a simpler version than what they give you or something like that, you can run your own test there also. So, hey, all my tests passed. That means I'm ready to submit. And so I'll click the submit button, and it submitted that for me. It takes me to the next problem here. Of course, you're not going to have a second problem on yours there's only one problem. But in this sample test, I'll give you the link to the sample test so you can try this out yourself. Like we saw, there are 2 programming problems and some multiple choice practice. Okay, so I can help you. Here's the thing with help on this, right? Like you're not allowed to use any resources except you can use a language reference, which means you can look up the Python documentation. So you can look in the Python docs to see if there's a function, or search the Python docs to see if there's a function that already built into Python that does something you want to do. And you can see, look at the documentation to see how to use that function. And the second thing you are allowed to do for help is you can ask me clarifying questions, especially if it has to do with like submitting, clarifying the instructions or how to submit on HackerRank, that sort of thing. So the list of things you cannot do is long. You cannot talk to other students about the code. You cannot search on the internet for things about how to do stuff in the problem. You certainly cannot look at other code that's already been written about this problem. No browsing the internet, no using books, it's all from your brain. Language reference, clarification questions to me. And I would say the only other code that you can look at would be code you've already written as part of this class. So I suppose that's the third thing you can do is you can look at code you've already written as part of this class. But that's it. So it is pretty limited. Okay, good luck and stay in touch. Bye.